Hello, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. That's what happens, you're used to broadcasting in the morning. Let's get yous up on the big screen. Afternoon, Stuart. Don't know many people will pop in to see this one because it is in the afternoon, folks. Anyway, it's Indytruck, Davy at the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it's overcast, it's 16 degrees, clammy and cloudy. That's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look out your rain, bloody windy, alright. Where are we? 68. We'll give a minute, see if we can hit 100 before we start, okay. Anyway, welcome everyone. Stuart, John, Ian, David Milligan, Karen, Sandra, Diane, Lorna, Stephen, John. Hi John, we well since we've seen you, mate. Brian, Sandra, oh we're getting there, we're climbing nicely. Hi Margaret, Rosie, Martin, hi Lenny, Helen, Tina. Where are we? 85 and climbing, that's no bad considering I'm way out. 89 and climbing. Hey, James, Rosalind, Jane, Lorraine, Hugh Smith, Hugh Taylor, how do guys? Brian, Lydia, hello Mr McGoran. Nearly there folks, we're nearly up there, the 100 mark, we're doing no bad. Hi Lorna, hi Owen. Hi Bobby, how are you? Hope you're recovering well. 99. Who's next? Don. You make it to 100, Don, so let's get this broadcast underway. Alright, so it's the news review, the weekend's news review. I've picked a few stories out to talk about what I normally do. And then we'll go into what the Rags said this morning. I know you may have seen it today. The Rags headlines been out. Alright, so Friday, public sector strike action is threatened as Unite to ballot 25,000 public council workers, cleaners, janitorial staff, refuge collectors, that sort of people will be balloted on strike action. Now listen, there's going to be a lot of this strike action going on. A lot is going to be driven by Labour to create a chaos in Scotland, because what all these trade unions know and what the Labour Party knows, the Scottish Government has a fixed budget. Now with inflation running at 10%, people need a 10% pay rise just to break even. But I'm afraid the Scottish public purse doesn't stretch to that. So there are going to be an awful lot of public sector workers who are damned unhappy. And there's no much we're going to be able to do to sort that out. Because, as I say, the Scottish Government's got a fixed budget. So if teachers want 10%, how many schools are we going to shut to be able to accommodate that? How many teachers are going to lose their job to accommodate that? If refuge collectors want 10%, how many binmen's getting the sack to cover it? If cleaners in schools want 10%, how many cleaners in schools are going to get sacked to cover it? What people in Scotland have to understand is while we're in this bloody union, then the public purse is controlled from Westminster and the Scottish Government's on a fixed bloody budget. Now wage demands are going to be astronomical because of inflation. The Scottish public purse just doesn't cover it. And you can't do much with income tax in the middle of a bloody cost of living squeeze. So we can't put taxes up. So be prepared for a summer and winter of discontent, folks. Like the 70s, 72, 73, 74, 75. You know, I remember these times, the general strike and all that crap. Well, it's coming down the line again. Okay. Right. Moving on. Friday. Spending on NHS agency staff, nurses, doctors, locums, that sort of thing, rises to 423 million, and that's double what it was in 2014. Now this is to be expected. NHS staff are knackered. They're still fighting a pandemic. It hasn't gone away. There was 7,771 new cases last week. At present there's 649 people in hospital, and according to the Office for National Statistics, 1 in 40 Scots is carrying the bloody virus. So it was to be expected that spending on locums and on bank nurse staff was going to get through the roof as NHS staff get the COVID virus and have to go into isolation. Okay, Right, also Friday, as we start to get towards the crap that's happening in Westminster as we speak, or a couple of hours back, EU judges to be stripped of court of final arbitration for Northern Ireland protocols, a new bill being placed before Westminster. Now, this bill, no matter what crap you're hearing coming across your televisions, this bill will break international law. This will lead to a trade war with the EU, and as far as I'm being told, Joe Biden in America is going off his chump. So you can expect, once this bill passes, for the UK to be whacked from the left and from the right, from the continent of Europe and from America. Buckle up, kids, this ain't going to be pretty. Which is really unfortunate, because the NI protocols are popular in Northern Ireland, as we all know. They are necessary to protect the Good Friday Agreement. And when Boris Johnson took his oven-ready deal to the Parliament in 2019 and into the public, he said that the NI protocols were perfectly legal and within the scope of the withdrawal agreement. So the claims now that the protocol is fudged and doesn't work is a lot of bollocks. It's working fine. Northern Ireland's the fastest growing part of this disunited kingdom, and it's doing very well, thank you. And the businesses, even unionist businesses, say that the protocol must stay. It maybe need a wee tweak here and there, but must stay. Okay, right. Now, the idea that the UK can unilaterally say that the European Court will no longer be the court of arbitration on all things to do with the protocol, well, that's bollocks. That was in the agreement that the European Court would be the European Court arbitration on NI protocols. It's in the withdrawal agreement. Alright, also Friday, UK ministers to draw up a bill to end gas price linked to cost of electricity in the UK to help millions of struggling families. And as a Davy says here, I heard it. Heard it. The link between the cost of production and the cost of selling the stuff, it's not going to get severed. It most certainly isn't. I don't see them capping what the electricity retailers can sell electricity to us at. In fact, we know in October it's going to go up again by another 40-odd percent, 43% I think it is. Since October last year to October this year, electricity prices will have risen, electricity and gas prices will have risen collectively by 123%. Wow. Amazingly bad. But the idea that ministers are going to draw up a bill to cap it, the way they have in Europe, heard it. They ought to put their BP and Shell sponsors and their Npower and Scottish Gas and Scottish Southern Electric badges on their bloody suits so we can all see who sponsors them. Alright. Right, Friday, Professor Mark Overthrope, Professor Pollux, says Scotland should be relaxed about independence. If Malta can do it, so can Scotland. Professor Overthrope, Professor Politics, has studied world referendums going back as far as 1793. And this guy says it's perfectly legal for Scotland to hold a referendum. It will be accepted. Alright. So that's the subjects I wanted to talk about for Friday. I hope you found them entertaining. I hope you found them informative. Let's have a wee look at what I pulled out the hat for Saturday. Right, Saturday, Ferguson Marines in turnaround. As Seamal says, it absolutely would give new contracts to Ferguson's. Now, I want to get into the Ferguson story a wee bit, and this £195 million in overspend that's supposed to be on these ferries. Well, actually, the money wasn't spent on the boats, folks. When Ferguson's got the contract to build these two ferries, the shipyard wasn't capable. It was all dilapidated and run down. Most of the money the Scottish Government threw into it was to turn Ferguson's Marine into a modern ferry producing company which could deal with dual fuel systems on the ferries. Now, it was brand new technology to Scotland, although it did exist elsewhere, but Ferguson's had to have new infrastructure and the people there had to be trained to build these things. because it's a skill they didn't have. But now that they have the modern facilities, which come out the public purse, now that they have the staff trained in building this type of ferry, then Ferguson's Marine will be very, very successful going forward, because it will be a modern shipyard with well-trained modern engineers working in it. Alright, so that's Ferguson Marine on a turnaround. Okay. Also Saturday, Kate Forbes and the First Minister refused to get into talks with trade unions over council public sector pay. They tell the unions to negotiate with COSLA, because COSLA was a body set up to be the buffer between the councils and central government. COSLA is set up for this sort of thing. So if the unions want to negotiate about pay in the public sector, especially council level, then they've got COSLA to deal with. That was the whole point of COSLA being created. Alright. Right, also Saturday, Prince Charles attacks UK government over Rwanda plan. After UK government wins High Court battle to get into people trafficking. But so they might have won in the High Court saying they can send people to Rwanda. But lefty lawyers, as they're calling them, have taken up the cases of the 31 people due to be deported on Tuesday. To be put on rendition flights on Tuesday and taken to Rwanda. Well, a lawyer activists have taken up their cases, so there's every chance that that flight won't take place on Tuesday. But, as I say, Friday, the High Court in England say that it is legal for the UK government to become people traffickers. I can't believe how bad things are getting down that road. When the legal system is telling the criminal cabal, it's alright for you to trade in human flesh. Wow. That also breaches international laws, you know, the right of the refugee. Okay, so Prince Charles isn't happy about it, and of course the lunatic right-wing rags have a go at Charlie on Sunday for getting into politics, alright. Also Saturday, England's new, England's new food strategy going forward is slated by their own policies are. It's also slated by the NFU. They say it's rubbish. Alright, now GM foods to be legalised in England, and this has caused a stushy with the Scottish Government, because although the Scottish Government can prevent Scottish farmers from growing genetically modified foods, due to the internal market bill, whatever genetically modified foods are produced in other parts of the UK will be sold in Scottish supermarkets. So even though we don't want it, even though we don't want to get involved, although I believe Scottish farmers do, but the Scottish Government wants to wait until the European Union's review on Frankenstein foods is done. Alright? But because of the internal market bill, if this stuff is produced and put into the food chain in other parts of the UK, then it will be put into Scottish supermarkets as well. So you're going to have to watch the labelling on what you buy going forward, as long as we're stuck in this bloody union. Alright. Also, Saturday, new report out from the European Research Group says the UK has been hit with a 31 billion loss of trade in 2021 due to Brexit. Tomorrow I'll talk about some of the figures that come out today, but that'll be in tomorrow's review. Okay, so a £31 billion hit to the economy because of Brexit. Wow. Red tape, stopping people from trading with the EU now. Absolutely mental. And they're just about to get into a trade war with the EU, as I've just said. That bill's been presented in Parliament today. You know, and the idea that they're going to bypass the European courts as the arbitrator on all things to do with the NI protocol, well, clear breach of international law. The shit's about to hit the fan. Right, Saturday, and Bojo says he won't extend school meals to 1 million hungry kids in England. Who's fucking surprised about that, eh? There's a campaign going on to get the free school meal entitlement extended down there to cover these million kids. Bojo said no. he doesn't give a shite if kids in England go to bed hungry at night. In fact, he doesn't give a shite if kids right across the UK go to bed hungry at night. He's a spanner, a wazzer, a criminal, and the sooner he's gone, the better. Right, let's see what else we'll pull out the hat for Saturday, will we? Nothing apparently. That's the stories I wanted to cover for Saturday. Let's move on to Sunday. Alright, Sunday. Johnson turns his back on Green Agenda, blaming cost of living crisis. So there you go. All the promises made at COP26 are out the bloody one day. Sorry kids, feco planet for you to live on in 100 years' time. Thanks to Bojo the arsehole, who intends to keep using fossil fuels an increased amount to produce electricity for the spanners down the road. And Bojo's making the claim today that he didn't know that Peter Stavanovich has just popped up my timeline there. He's saying that PM is now suggesting he did not realise that the Brexit deal would create a border in the Irish Sea. What a lot of bollocks. He negotiated it, he knew exactly what he was doing. Right, also Sunday, Tories at war with Cabinet to cut taxes. And, well, you know, Bojo's already made it clear, as far as he's concerned, now's not the time to cut taxes. But the public purse is bulging at this point in time, especially VAT on energy costs to houses, and of course a fuel tax and VAT on fuel. The Treasury's budging. I mean, it's £2 a litre. Just over, it's £9 a gallon of petrol. 50% of every gallon, £4.50, it goes straight to the Treasury. So there's plenty of money kicking about. They could cut taxes. The Tories have a point on this one, but I don't think the Cabinet's going to budge, alright. Also Sunday, Alex Salmond's given airtime to say Indytruck 2 campaign should start now. He also says that he'll back the campaign and he'll help to unite the Yes movement. I don't know if the Yes movement needs his help, but every voice is welcome. Which, I mean, people keep thinking I'm doing in the Alpha Party because I point out the truth. The truth is they are of no consequence at this point in time. Check back in 30 years and we'll see if they're of any consequence, because that's how long it takes. At this point in time, the Alpha Party is just a noise in the background. 6,000 people out of 2 million Yes supporters. Because remember, we're at 50-50 now. So that's 2 million Yes supporters, and 6,000 of them think they're of consequence. Wow. I'm not doing any Alpha Party. Let's get this bloody well clear. I'm a realist. I'm a political realist. I've looked at political movements and how long it takes for them to get traction and get into the public consciousness. Let's have a look at the Green Party, for example. It's been around since the 60s. It's only got one MP. One. If it wasn't for devolution, it'd be nowhere. The Green Party. They've been gone since the 60s. One MP. The Alpha Party doesn't even got any elected representatives. The 2 elected representatives that they have walked the flare for the SNP. They've never had anybody win an election. On the last Scottish election, they get 1.6% of the popular vote. On the council election there, it went up to 2, but first preference votes for the Alpha Party was no more than the 6,000 members it has. It came in at 0.7%. Davy deals in realities, not in bloody pipe dreams. So all these people here that think I'm doing in the Alpha Party, I'm no. I welcome all voices in our society. I welcome all voices in our politics. But I'm a bloody realist. If the Alpha Party want to stick around for 30, 40, 50 years to make the breakthrough, then I'm more than happy for them to do so. But when you get silly buggers saying and making statements like the SNP should reach out to an inconsequential party with 6,000 members, it's the same size as the Lib Dems. And they're inconsequential. There's not even enough for them to make a quorum in the Scottish Parliament. The Lib Dems have been around forever. In various forms, of course. But the Lib Dems have been around a long time. It's going to take the Alpha Party a long time to break through. And all these people in the Alpha Party says the SNP should be reaching out to them and offering them an olive branch. Why? You're 6,000 people out of 2 million. What you should be doing is what you're supposed to be doing. And that's campaigning for independence instead of having to go to the SNP. Because 6,000 people out of 2 million is bloody inconsequential. Now, as I say, I'm not doing any Alpha Party no matter what all you people think. They're welcome. And we'll see how they get on in 30 years' time to 50 years' time, because that's how long it takes for a political party to break through. Simple as that. That's all. Go study your political history yourselves, Alpha Party. Wow. Right, also Sunday, Mike Russell tells the press Indytruck 2 will go ahead with or without a Section 30 order. Now, Davy's been saying this. Section 30 order isn't necessary, it isn't a legal requirement. But the other thing Davy's been saying is, if there isn't an Indytruck 2, the SNP are a busted flush. And it still won't help the Alpha Party if the SNP is a busted flush. Because all of us in the SNP will go join the bloody Greens. Because they are already established. So, there is an alternative already there, and the Alpha Party's no it. Right, so, there you go. Indytruck 2 is going to go ahead. Mike tells us there's going to be big announcements coming, and going forward there will be this independence referendum, alright? Sunday, Police Scotland to consider industrial action over the Treasury £565 a year pay rise offer. The Scottish Police Federation says it's because the Scottish Government has little respect for what the police do. No, it's no. It's because of what Davy's just said. We're on a fixed budget and there's an awful lot of people working in the public sector. That means there's only thin gruel out there to go around. You know, all these people who are working in the Scottish public sector better get their head wrapped around who's losing their jobs and what services are going to get whacked if they're wanting whopping 10% pay rises. Because it just isn't within the scope of the 41.7 billion that the Scottish Government's got to run Scotland for this next 12 months. It's just not within the scope of what we're doing, cutting NHS services, we're going to cut dental services, we're going to cut we're going to cut the new bus passes for kids. Are we going to close schools? Are we going to chop off the amount of police we have serving on our streets? Because that's the decision public sector workers are going to have to make. They're going to have to look at their mates in the eyes and say, well, who's getting their job cut? Because the Scottish public purse just didn't go that far. Alright, and also on Sunday, the UK government claims that the Scots will have to take £180 billion of UK debt if we become independent. Well, there's a Davy says there and all. No, we don't. None of that debt belongs to Scotland. The Scottish Government, especially over the period of devolution, has to run a balanced budget legally, and it can't borrow. And if what little it can borrow, it can only borrow from Westminster. It's no our debt. There is no legal obligation to take any of it on, as we're aware. And Westminster's aware of that as well, because in 2014, in the campaign, Mr. Salmond had it pointed out and had it confirmed that Scotland actually doesn't have any debt. It's Westminster's debt, it's the UK's debt, and as the seceding state, we have no obligation. The successor state holds the debt. Alright? Now, of course, we will come to a negotiated settlement. We probably will take a small share of that debt, or service a small share of servicing that debt, interest payments. But that'll be it. But Professor Richard Murphy's already spoke about all this stuff. Scotland's going to walk away with a clean slate. End of story. For day one, everything will run into the Scottish coffers. And that's a lot of money. A lot more than what we get back from Westminster. Alright? And finally for Sunday, Mary Lou MacDonald slates Westminster over breach of international laws. Now, Mary Lou MacDonald was over the television studios yesterday here in the UK to tell us that Brandon Lewis and the criminal cabal are all lying buggers, and that unilaterally changing the A&I protocols does break international law. Okay, so they say there's a trade war in the offing, but they're going to get smacked for both sides, they say. Biden's raging. The American caucus is no happy, and it looks like trade sanctions are coming for both sides shortly. And of course, Westminster will be dragged into the international courts for breaching international law. Right, that's what I've got for you every weekend. They're the big stories I'll pull out to have a look at. Although there's no much point to it, because most of you have seen the headlines, but now let's have a wee run through what the papers have to say today. Okay, spending on locum doctors and bank nurses doubles to 423 million. We've already spoke about that. And the reason for it is, of course, is that NHS full-time staff are knackered. A lot of them are half sick with COVID. They're on the edge. And my heart goes to them. That's a battle and a half. There's a battle royal they're fighting. And they're still fighting it. The Scotsman goes on the same story. NHS spend on agency staff nearly doubles level of 2014. The Daily Telegraph runs on the story I was talking about. Friday, European judges to be stripped of protocol powers. And Rwanda hits back at criticism over migrant scheme. Let's not call it a migrant scheme. Let's call it what it is. People bloody trafficking. The eye has. Rwanda flights may not get off the ground. And that's what I was talking about. The lawyers taking on the cases of the 31 migrants who were due to be flown out. So there'll be appeals on them being sent away from the UK. Right, the Metro has death of our hero, and this is the story of a young fella who travelled out to Ukraine after he left the British Army, Jordan Gatley, 24, and he joined the International Brigade. He's a former British soldier, was fighting in Ukraine when he died. Now, normally at this point, I'd do what I usually do and say, tell your kids to sit and stay. But as you'll remember when this started, I said only those who have been trained to get into such a theatre should travel to Ukraine. This young fella, Gatley, he was trained to operate in such theatres. He took his chances, went out. Unfortunately, the young fella is no longer with us. Right, and the Daily Express goes on. New pressure on SNP government as officers consider industrial action. Angry police warning over the riser pay offer. We've just spoke about that. But the real problem here for Scotland is that we don't have control of our own finances, so we've got a limited amount in the public purse, and it just won't spread to 10% right across the board. It just won't. That would need to be 10% of the Scottish budget. That would be 4 billion across the board, wouldn't it? So other services would need to be cut. The Daily Mail goes on. Children aged 13 strip searched by Scots police. Thousands of children as young as 13 have been strip searched by police in Scotland, officers' figures show. Well, obviously, there would have been either a guardian or a parent or a social worker present at these things. Although I still have to say I'm not keen on the idea of strip searching children, but you know, kids as young as 13 have been used as drug mules, you know, on their wee bikes, battering around schemes, making drop-offs. So you can see where it's coming from. The Times has shake-up of energy market to tackle bills. That's what we're talking about. They're talking about splitting the link between the gas price and the price of electricity, which would mean massive subsidies. And apparently there's no places at university for top students. And the National goes on. Scotland is not too wee or too poor for Indy. So there you have it. The Record goes on. Kids coked up in school. Now we were just talking about strip searches. Kids are after chump on coke in the schools. I find that hard to believe, actually. You know. What's the star got for us today? That's if the star is here today. As runway landings, queasy jet flight at flight fright, pilot in loo during touchdown. I guess the plane landed itself. But you know, like the star is. That's not bad. Right, folks, tomorrow's show will be back on time between 11 and I'll go out at either 11 or 11:15. But there will be a change to how it's done. Alright? Instead of me going live straight on Facebook, I'm going to be going live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter all at the same time. Which means that when I go live, I will be sharing a YouTube link to my Facebook page. If you click on that link, that will take you straight to the live feed. Now, it might take a few days for you to get used to it, and I might end up losing some audience figures because of it, but that's the way I intend to do it going forward. As we get into the campaign, I want to have bigger access to people than just Facebook itself. I know I'm very grateful for all you guys sharing what it is I do, but at the same time, we want to make a bigger impact and try and break out the bubble. So if we can get it onto YouTube and Twitter and Facebook simultaneously, hopefully we'll get the message out to more people. Especially as we go forward and Davy spends more and more time debunking the crap coming out of the mainstream media. Be prepared, folks, for full-on propaganda war against Scottish independence. It started. It's never really stopped. That's why the BBC have been following Scotland shite at everything. I mean, you could sum up the news here in Scotland in 2 or 3 sentences. Scotland shite, SNP bad, sports and weather. There you go. That's me just rounded the news up for you. Don't even have to look. That's exactly what the news says. So Davy will be spending more time debunking this pish. So Davy's going to have to spend more, wants to get out and wider platforms so we get to more people. So that's why I'll be streaming through YouTube tomorrow, but the link will appear on my Facebook page as usual. It will just appear as a YouTube link. So at between 11 and 11:15 tomorrow, I'll put the link up on my Facebook page. You just click onto the link and that will take you straight to the live feed on YouTube. Alright? Or if you're on Twitter, you click on the link on Twitter and that will take you to the live feed on YouTube. Alright? So that's how I intend to do it going forward, and that's how we intend to do the Thursday shows with me and David Milligan as well, the two Davies going forward. We intend to go out on as many platforms as we can, and as we join more platforms, that'll be added into our Zoom a streaming system, and we'll be able to go out and further outlets as well as we get them. Okay, I mean at the moment we're going out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and Discord, because my videos show up in Maximilian Robespierre's Scottish Affairs on Discord, in the Discord server as well. So we're already out there on 4 platforms. We hope to widen that out and get a bigger audience share. Okay, right, so that's what we got for you today. We're running a wee bit over at 33 minutes, but hey, that happens now and again. So I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it informative. Alright, so the usual stuff, alright. Partisan, Mr. Salmon seems to be getting behind this idea and all now. Partisan politics in your pockets. Get your eyes on the prize, learn your how you gonies, and get out there and win hearts and minds. The game's afoot. Alright? Now support the independent media, support Broadcasting Scotland, Independence Live, Caledon Media. You know the chaps, independence vloggers and bloggers like Davy Boy here, but Davy doesn't want your money. So if these other people have got crowdfunders gone, and you've got a few shekels to spare, throw them in the pot. Alright? Health messaging, follow the 2 bits of guidance that's left. Face coverings in enclosed public spaces, clean your hands and surfaces regularly, alright? Now, if you're feeling a wee bit under the weather, put a mask on and think about social distancing, okay? Because there's not much testing going on. And those of you who are still testing, please submit your test results to NHS Scotland till we try and get a clear picture on how much of this is in the community. As I say, cases are increasing again, 7,771 last week. But they'll increase more in England and Wales, where they had lots of Jubilee parties and stupid things like that. You know, it'll not go up as much here in Scotland, I would hope. But with the summer coming and staycations once again being the thing because of travel chaos at airports in RUK, then there's every chance a lot of those folk from down south will be travelling up north. Now, you lot have a really nice day. As I say, I'm sorry I broadcast late today. I forgot I had a doctor's appointment this morning. And don't worry, I'm fine. I'm fine. Alright. So, let's move forward with this. The campaign's about to get underway. Nicola's due to give us some updates. Mike Russell's already told us it's gone ahead with or without Westminster's permission, and that seems to be the way we're going forward here. Mr. Salmon says they should be getting prepared for legal challenge. But everybody got a fucking challenge. Huh? I mean, what's illegal about somebody asking yourself a question? Especially a sovereign state or a sovereign country. Alright. You guys have a nice day. Catch you all tomorrow. Bye for now.